Hey everyone, so today I'm going to talk about films. Finally, I've been meaning to talk about films on YouTube for such a long time and I don't know why I haven't. But anyway, here it is, finally. A film. Bleh. I'm going to talk about films through the YouTube movie deal, so I guess I'm kind of talking about movies. But yeah, the YouTube movie deal was a series created by neafcy? I'm guessing it's pronounced neafcy? I should know this. So if you don't know, this was a series of videos that he did where he interviewed some of his favourite YouTubers about their favourite movies, and now the series has ended, it has become a little tag thing where anyone can answer the question. So that is what I'm going to be doing today. So let's get on with it. What is the first film you remember seeing? I've no idea what the film that I actually first ever watched was. I don't know when I actually first went to the cinema either, but I remember going to see Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and I would have been about 4 years old, I think. That's the earliest cinema trip that's in my memory. It's the only one I really remember from when I was quite young. Yeah, I went to see that with my mum and my sister, and Harry Potter's been a big part of my life. I love Harry Potter. I'm quite happy for that to be one of the first films I remember seeing. I remember that I took this guy along with me to the cinema to see Harry Potter because, I mean, it's kind of a children's movie, but there's a lot of kind of scary stuff in there, like, you know, the death of parents and the abandonment of the child and the creepy Voldemort guy on the back of someone's head. A little bit scary. In the end, I think it was my mum that actually got scared by the film and not me, but I think that's probably because I was so young I didn't really have a concept of what on earth was happening in the story. But I think I enjoyed it. Do you think it's possible to have a favourite film, and if so, what is yours? I'm not going to say it's not possible to have a favourite film, because I feel like that's not for me to say, because you might have a favourite film. However, I think it's really difficult to pick a favourite film, and it might not be your actual favourite. I mean, it's going to be the favourite film you've seen so far in your life. I think it's possible to have a favourite film like within a boundary, so it's like my favourite film of that genre or my favourite film at that time in my life. I definitely do not have a favourite film overall. I am pretty awful at picking favourites, although I do kind of have a favourite band. That's All Time Low. But then I feel like having a favourite band's more like having a favourite director or something like that, because there's less of them. Like, I definitely don't have a favourite song, but I might have a favourite song by a certain artist or of a certain genre. I do have some films that are definitely up there in my favourites. Like, if someone says, what's your favourite film, I would have like a little list that I just pick one from. So the Lord of the Rings trilogy is they're some of my favourite films. Also the Hobbit films, but not quite as much. Not necessarily because they're any worse or anything like that, just the Lord of the Rings trilogy was like what introduced me to that world, and I watched them when I was like quite young actually, and they're just like a massive thing that I just fell in love with. And I think also I was probably like, I want to say 7, I don't know my exact age. I know I was kind of young to be watching The Lord of the Rings, but when I watched it, like, that's not a typical film for a 7-year-old girl to watch. So, you know, none of my friends had seen it and they were all like, oh, it's like battles and stuff, not interested, but I stuck by it. I was like, nah, it's one of my favourite films, it's my favourite film. I guess I associate it with like liking what you like, and I still do very much like them. Mean Girls is another one that I've answered as my favourite film at different ways in my life, and it is a brilliant film. It's great. I know it like off by heart, and yet I can still watch it and enjoy it and not feel like, oh, seen this too much. You can't see it too much. It's also been at the core of quite a lot of my friendships, and also at certain points in my life it's been so like prevalent, and it's just nice. I just like that film. It's a good film. Other films that I love are The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight trilogy as a whole, but particularly The Dark Knight for a million reasons. Like, it's the film that got me interested in filmmaking, so I love it a lot. And also like Heath Ledger's performance as a Joker, and just a lot of I love that film. I guess like as well, The Truman Show, I absolutely love that one. I think I like it because, I don't know, I think I have seen it from start to finish now, but I've watched it like 4 times, but I think for like the first 3 times I caught it on TV, so I'd seen the last half and then I'd seen the first half and then I'd seen a bit of the middle, and it's just such a clever film and I need to buy it. That reminds me to go and buy it. Thank you, me. Recently, I'd say The Imitation Game is probably gonna be one of my favourite films. I need to see it again, but I fell in love with that film. Also, Shawshank Redemption, amazing, obviously. My sister and I came up with this thing, so you've got like your 5 favourite films, the 5 best films you've seen, and then 5 films that have changed or had like a huge impact on your life. And yeah, there's always gonna be crossovers, but it's interesting when there's not. And so I guess the ones that are crossovers are like The Dark Knight and Lord of the Rings, and the ones I've mentioned. I also love Hot Fuzz and The Amazing Spider-Man, because that got me into superhero films. I like a lot of films. I think we have gathered that for me, you can't have a favourite film, but so that's my answer. I can't have a favourite film. You might if you watch less films or you're not nearly as indecisive. What film or films make you cry? What films don't make me cry would be an easier question to answer. I cry at most things. Like, I watched Wild Child once. Fair enough, it was quite late at night, but I did shed a tear. I do cry at like most things, and I don't know if that's been something I've always done. I feel like it's been more so over the past few years, but I don't know if that's my memory, if that's right, if I've just watched more films or more emotional films over that time. I would say that nearly every film will get me like watery eyes, unless it's, you know, there's nothing like emotion, because even happy stuff makes me cry. So if you got happy stuff or you got sad stuff, and most films have at least a bit of both or either of them, you know? Like, you don't really see a film with no emotion. But there are some films that can properly make me like sob and have like tears like dripping off my cheeks. I remember when I saw Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, in the bit with Snape, I was like honestly struggling not to sob. I think I actually like made a noise, but I was in the cinema, so I was like, but that was proper, like that proper got me. That's the first film I remember like properly crying at, and not just sort of having watery eyes or like tears. I was like properly like overcome with emotion. Brokeback Mountain's an obvious answer. That film killed me. I think I cried like an hour after the film even ended. Perks of Being a Wallflower is another one. That's one that I don't watch. I've only watched it twice because I have such a huge like emotional response. It is like draining to watch. Again, saw that in the cinema the first time, so that was tricky. If you could magically enter the world of any film, what would it be and why? I'm not sure, this is such a tricky one, but I think probably some sort of film where there's some kind of like alternative world thing going on, like proper fantasy where it's completely different. Films like Mean Girls, like people films, it's not gonna be, why would you want to go into there? So like, I really want to say Lord of the Rings. I think that's just because I love Middle Earth and you've got all the different creatures, but maybe not at the time that the Lord of the Rings is set, because you got all the fighting and the war and the kind of scary death stuff. Not really keen on that. If I can go to the world of Lord of the Rings and just kind of party with the elves and meet these cool creatures, and that would be fun. I'd quite like to go into a superhero film. I guess the Avengers would be the best because it's the most of them, and kind of just like interview superheroes and just have that be a thing, because that would make me really happy if they were real. Maybe Harry Potter as well. I'm trying to think of other films where you've got like a different world. I'm sure there's heaps, but I'm tired. So yeah, so Lord of the Rings, superhero films, Harry Potter, anything with something cool that we don't have here. Which movie characters do you wish you were more like? There's two answers to this. There's like the lighthearted answer that's like, well, you know, like Spider-Man so I can swing off buildings, or like Batman so I can have lots of money and also like swoop around saving people. So it would be quite nice to have a lot of the character traits of superheroes, but actual sort of like personality traits, I'm not sure. I'm thinking Sam from the Lord of the Rings, because he's such a good friend to Frodo, and he is such like he's such a genuine character. And like that bit, you know, when Frodo's getting possessed by the ring and he's horrible to Sam, and Sam keeps coming back and he's there because he knows it's not really Frodo, and like he helps him, and he's like the kind of understated hero, I guess, and he has a lot of brilliant traits that I would like to have more of. I could also pretty much recite Jack Howard's answer to this question when he did the YouTube movie deal, so I'll link that and you can go hear what he says, because when I watched that I was like, yeah, that's me. So what he said: how have films influenced you either in your personal life or in the content you create? I think films have influenced me in countless ways in my life, but ways that I'm not necessarily aware of. I feel like you watch many films and you have a reaction to all of them, and they probably do influence the way you act in certain situations, and just in these tiny little ways throughout our lives. That's kind of what I love about films. They can have such massive impacts on our lives, but in just through entertainment, through like a couple of hours of entertainment, and your life's changed a little bit, and I like that. I like that a lot. In terms of like the content I create, I don't feel like the stuff that I've made so far for YouTube has been massively influenced by any films particularly. I'm trying to think of stuff I've made. I don't think so, because the stuff I make isn't really like feature films, is it? So the stuff I make is more influenced by stuff I watch on YouTube. For example, some editing things have come from stuff I've seen like Jack do, for example, you know, just like little things like that. But in stuff I'd like to make, like maybe short films ideas that I would have, or like, you know, just slightly more advanced, arty content, I don't know, that is, I guess, going to be more influenced by proper big films. Like, for example, in a video that I'm planning, there's a shot I really want to do and it's pretty much stolen from The Imitation Game. As I create stuff that's more film-like, I'm going to be more influenced by films, but at the moment I don't feel like the stuff I create is. I can't really think of an example in life, but I feel like I have, just like the person I am and I guess how I act in certain situations have been influenced by the stuff I watched. What film or films do you hate and why? Now, I can't think of many. I feel like I either love, like really love films, quite like them, like enjoy them, and that's usually it. Sometimes like I don't mind them, but I've just thought of one. The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, is that even the title of it? Is it just The Grinch? I really don't like that film. I think I've only seen it once. I hated it. I did not like it. I don't know why. I think it's a really popular film that a lot of people love, but for some reason I just hated it. I think I really didn't like the character of the Grinch, like not just because he hated Christmas or anything like that. I think he just annoyed me, and the people in it were all like human but weird, and I didn't like that. I'm just not a fan. And obviously Man of Steel. I thought Man of Steel was going to be so epic, and I'd seen a couple tweets from, I think it was Tim H and Jack probably, saying like how bad it was and how disappointed they were, and I was like, what? That can't be right, that can't be right. And then I saw it and I was just like wanting to like it, but just being like, there's so much, I don't like it, don't get it away. Part of me wants to watch it again to just like properly see like, was it an overreaction, like what actually went wrong, but I also don't want to see it again because it annoyed me so much the first time. So Man of Steel and The Grinch Who Stole Christmas. I feel like there's something else that I'm forgetting, but so I can't think of anyone in particular that I really want to answer these questions, so I'm not going to bother tagging anyone. But if you would like to answer them, go ahead and let me know, because I'd love to hear what you have to say about films, because I love the films. I'll probably talk about them more, maybe I'll attempt to review films. I don't know if I could do that. Thank you for watching, I hope you enjoyed this. Have a nice day, and I will talk to you soon, hopefully. Bye! So instead of coffee and a chat with Chris, we've got hot chocolate and a chat with Kirsty.